Dear President Obama, we, the people, have stated resolutely we reject your vision for our country. You claim you have not heard us. We, the people, have assembled across America resisting your efforts to subvert our Constitution and undermine our liberty. You claim you have not seen us. Since you have not acknowledged our message, let us here present it once more. For if, as President Wilson said, a leader's ear must ring with the voices of the people,
Investigate just miles from the center of El Paso, Texas, where we were able to cross the river from Mexico into America. Thousands of other than Mexicans cross our borders from 75 different countries. InfoWars has shown you time and time again that our borders are intentionally left unsecured, and now these ISIS psychopaths are ready to strike at targets on American soil. We know our government has created and funded ISIS, so whether or not this is a real threat or a false flag, the globalists are now one step closer to their endgame, stripping us of all our liberties. So we dress up like an ISIS jihadi to be as obvious as possible, to show and to illustrate just how wide open the border really is.
Thank you, Obama, for leaving your southern borders open so ISIS can terrorize America. ISIS thanks you, President Obama. We claim this land for Sharia law.
Globalists have controlled the mainstream media for a long time, but now they're expanding and making the weaponization even more vicious and deceptive. All the major networks are state-run.
We are partnering this year with the NFL.
The NFL has become a political weapon against the Second Amendment and pushes Obamacare. MSNBC tells us that our children belong to the state.
We have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
It is more important than ever to realize that we are not the alternative media. We are the true media. The establishment dinosaur press is dying.
we are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
Join us at InfoWarsNews.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. Members can share their memberships with up to 11 people. By subscribing, you will literally be buying war bonds in the info war to expand our operation in the face of the tyrants. Join us at PrisonPlanet.tv.
Since you have made it so easy for the Caliphate ISIS group to come into your country, I challenge you, President Barack Obama, to take the ISIS Head Bucket Challenge. Do not listen to your conservative swine or your patriotic groups, your Tea Party. Ignore them. Leave the borders wide open for me and my brethren to come in and do psychotic things. You created us. Love us. Let us in. Let us go running around and killing and taking places over. That's why you made us, isn't it?
This morning, as I was working out, I was flipping through channels and was watching the Brazilians go into conniption fits like North Koreans when Kim Jong-il died, crying and beating their chest and having national mourning and blaming Mick Jagger for being bad luck because he rooted for the Brazilian team when the Germans trounced them, 7-1? 7-0? In fact, give me the scores. I think it was 7-1. The point here is that I didn't watch it, and I don't know, and I don't care. I'm not against people that want to watch soccer or football, whatever. It's the mental illness obsession with people's identity being...
Oh, say, can you see? This video will present irrefutable and scientific proof that will establish beyond any reasonable doubt that Michelle Obama is in fact a man who prefers to present himself and who prefers to dress up as a woman. This video will prove that the person commonly referred to as the First Lady of the United States may be the First Queen at best, but he most certainly is not a lady. Let's find out why. This video will examine the following. It will examine Michelle's male hands, male shoulders, male
Working out, I was flipping through channels. I don't want to be directed. Southern California.
People don't seem to look around and open.
I'm sorry, you've not seen the movie?
Not just yet.
And you're too busy to see it, probably?
To do. The fourth quarter. Well, the Raptor have
Look at the cover story in Rolling Stone. A woman possessed.
Then he's a...
When I dance, if you're a dancer, you know you're just interpreting the sounds and the accompaniment. It's the music that compels me to do it. It's not that. We're going to fix it in a minute. We're on live television, so we're going to go to break. These things happen. We'll be right back.
It's Club 7, and you should look after the Spice Girls Simon Fuller. Have they tried?
Female underage in a motel by the down.
It's been said that fiction is a projection of reality.
I don't know, they might...
Back into British Israel. Department of Public Health, this is Dr. White. I'm Sergeant Friday.
Negroes? No, they didn't. It was a very... She wore the same old-fashioned clothes and tried to speak to have a penchant for staring at a guy who's working for the devil. And in the movie, creates a new world order and tells Hellboy that he above with their father's shoe separating them. The goddess Newt is typically depicted in a tight-fitting blue dress, just like Princess Nuanez. Geb, the goddess, leaves, and here's Prince Nuanez.
This guy has never
things that connect him to the sun god and to the all-seeing eye. Your story. The story of Set, Osiris, and Horus, with Laura plays with no witnesses, like Laura Croft's father was killed.
Based on Iraq.
Avocado is a fruit. A vegetable tree. There's no such thing as a vegetable tree. Okay, Google. Is that an avocado? It's a fruit! It's a fruit.
He didn't say anything last night that he hasn't said before in public. And I should tell you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President...
through the press.
Avocados are green, therefore under the vegetable category. Anything that comes from a tree is a fruit.
What do you think of President Obama's suggestion that the borders be redrawn?
Has no idea what the world is like because he doesn't have to live there. That's why President Netanyahu, whose brother led the Entebbe raid and died, crossing into the invented UN after the League of Nations was a disaster. This is a paper tiger. We allowed dictators to get up there and spread propaganda from Hugo Chavez to Gaddafi.
Yeah, 15 minutes could...
Insurance saves people money on car insurance. How? By doing things in a modern, smarter way. That saves us money, which saves you money.
The UR Experience. Coming to a city near you with special guests August Alsina and DJ Cassidy. Tickets are on sale now. Produced by Live Nation Global Touring.
Watching television often produces an because of psychological
invisible a whole new era of
and intellectual manipulation.
Sound it out. Get ready.
In every region.
1 John chapter Isaiah chapter 4. Before we go any further, make it past the 3rd degree, which politicians have been, and still are, hundreds of years. This flag. Brotherhood of Nations and Roach still are valid. Isaiah 29:15. Illuminati that is shareholders of the Bank of England. Wallace well knew that his military defeat was only the beginning of world catastrophe that would be universal and that unrest would continue until mind control could be accomplished through a false religion. What he predicted has come to pass. A brief sketch of American religious history, and we have seen Masonry infused into every church in America with a veiled phallic religion. We can't see the Judeo-Masonic conspiracy because we are not accustomed to thinking in terms of hundreds of years. But the Illuminati bankers have been plotting the new order of the ages featured on the US dollar, along with the uncapped Masonic pyramid 4th meeting in Paris in 1930. By the Illuminati Masons as the flaming torch of reality means to bear light one way. There is another similar being the mother of them all. In 1791, Pierre Charles lent Fanny the
myself that we needed a new
program. Feeling we are redefining impractical terms to the globalist trap. Microchip that can be read from a few. In addition, the intent of Saddam Hussein. Whipping up fear into Americans once again. While none were found, both continued their charge that WMD existed with the fervor. In the scriptures, Exodus 22:25. If thou lend money to any of my people that is poor by thee, thou shalt not be to him as an usurer. Yet the law in many countries Matthew chapter 7 verses 15 through 20. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles? Even so every good tree bringeth forth good fruit. But a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down, and cast into the fire. Wherefore by their fruits ye shall know them. Thus that there will be false prophets in the world. Many of the modern-day false prophets we see today belong to secret satanic societies like the Freemasons, the most unholy so-called Christian group on the earth today. It is currently the world's largest Christian television network. TBN has aired the most evil of teachings and supports apostate, Christ-hating false prophets. Many TBN followers may have a hard time believing the information presented in this video. I ask that you pray that God would reveal the truth to you. Jesus said in John 8:32, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." And a doctrine being preached to the masses and being disguised as Christian. Luciferians actually believe that God held Adam and Eve captive in the Garden of Eden, because he was a cruel and unjust God. They believe that Lucifer rebelled against God, to save mankind, and to set mankind free. If this is too much for TBN followers to accept, then I strongly encourage you to do your own research on the occult and the Luciferian doctrine. 1 Peter 5:8. Be sober, be vigilant. Because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. With the initial turn to apostasy by the Christ since the 1960s Cultural Revolution, when the Illuminati decided to step up its revolutionary activities under the guise of Christian revivalism and Jesus rock. It's not hard to spot this Illuminist infiltration of Christianity. It basically works on the foundation of Christian Zionism under seductive doctrines promising riches and rewards, like the prosperity gospel or word of faith movement, to lure sleeping and unwitting masses to disappointment, and ultimately to heresy and apostasy. The other dead giveaway is the charismatic movement's emphasis on signs and wonders, which is nothing more than the serpent spirit of the Kabbalistic Kundalini parading around as manifestations of the Holy Spirit.
He has numerous media outlets, but rarely has the televangelist and faith healer Benny Hinn granted an...
Then think again. We all live under the...
Get ready for the night of your life.
A Fox News alert. The same old words. They're using in this, the first floor to go up this.
Giant ones everywhere. People in Europe know because they're...
The Department of Homeland Security. Don't be cowards and attack.
Cutting edge of the true civil.
It was the 1st of September, 2004. For many of these kids, it was their first day of school. What started out as a day of great joy and excitement ended as one of the worst hostage tragedies in human history.
Inside this gymnasium, more than 1,200 hostages were crowded together with explosives suspended above their heads.
3 days later, over 300 hostages were killed, including 156 children. The terrorists were Muslims, and they carried out the attacks in the name of Islam. I'm also a Muslim, and I've dedicated my life to fighting the threat of radical Islam. How you doing? Images demonstrate mild inferior fixed defects in the inferior right. My name is Zudi Jasser. I'm a doctor currently in private practice in Phoenix, Arizona. I was a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy, and I served as a staff physician to members of the U.S. Congress and the Supreme Court.
Thank you so much for coming.
As a devout Muslim, I saw it as my responsibility to expose the radicals. I resented that they were exploiting the religion I love.
If you listen to bin Laden, he is not a nutcase as many Muslims will want you to believe. He is a fascistic theocrat, period.
After 9/11, I started looking into what was driving radical Islam. I came across an alarming document that reveals the true agenda of much of the Muslim leadership here in America. 9/11 until it was revealed that Muslims were behind the attacks.
فهؤلاء الشباب قاموا بعمل عظيم جدا، بعمل جليل، وأعطوا أمريكا درسا لن تنساه بإذن الله سبحانه وتعالى.
I had expected to see Muslims in America taking to the streets and protesting against bin Laden. Instead, in the years that followed, we saw many Muslim leaders standing up to defend or support the radicals.
Stop calling them suicide bombers. They are not suicide bombers, they are heroes. And it's about time that we have an intifada in this country that changes fundamentally the political dynamics in here.
So I formed my own organization, and I protested.
Where are the Muslims? Where are they in speaking out and condemning terrorism?
Local Muslim leaders refused to participate in the rally. In fact, shortly afterwards, I was outcast by the Islamic leadership across the country, and there was even a cartoon published in a Muslim newspaper that portrayed me as a dog cannibalizing a religious leader. It wasn't until I saw this document written in America by American Muslims that I understood what was really going on, a strategy to infiltrate and dominate America. We all know about terrorism. This is the war you don't know about.
I think there is a general tendency to underestimate the threat which is offered to us in the present global conflict.
I think the public in America is denied the strategic truth. Media and elite are not helping.
The vast majority of Americans no longer are falling for the trick of the bad terrorists who are out there to get us.
They are framing the debate as Iraq, or as Afghanistan, or as Guantanamo Bay. They're not showing the public the big picture.
من أجل نشر كلمة لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله في ربوع العالم.
It's an entire movement, and the idea of it is hatred for our way of life.
فأمريكا إلى زوال والإسلام إلى بقاء.
The clash between Islam and Christendom has now been going on for more than 14 centuries, since the advent of Islam.
The first key point that Americans need to know is that this is a war, a jihadist war, which started before 9/11, before the end of the Cold War, before the beginning of the Arab-Israeli conflict. It's a very long war with deep roots.
This is a war about religion, not because we wish it to be so, but because the radical Islamists have named it so.
فهذا يدل بوضوح على طبيعة هذه الحرب وعلى أن هذه الحرب هي حرب دينية في الأساس.
This is a global cosmic struggle between two religiously defined civilizations, which will end only when they triumph universally.
There were two major jihads in history. The first one was during the beginnings of the early Islamic Empire.
In the 7th century AD CE, Arab Muslim armies erupted from Arabia and conquered a lot of lands.
When the Arabs came out of Arabia and moved into the Fertile Crescent, eastwards to Iraq and Iran and Central Asia and India, westwards to Syria, Palestine, Egypt, North Africa, and from there into Europe, where they ruled Spain and Portugal and a good part of Italy for quite a while. And that was obviously not done by peaceful persuasion.
That was the first major jihad. The second jihad, when the Turks invaded the Balkans all the way to the walls of Vienna.
They conquered the great Christian city of Constantinople in 1453, and they were able to expand into southeastern Europe, conquering the whole of the southeast.
And where we find ourselves today, we're in the third and final phase of their mission to bring about the domination of their version of Islam.
wants to find out what is motivating radical Islam, surely it's more sensible to look at what they actually say they're doing and what their intentions actually are.
The main goal of our jihad and resistance is to implement the law of Allah and to fight against the infidels all over the world and implement one religion across the world.
ما نعتقده أن جميع الأرض لا بد أن تكون تحت حكم الإسلام لا يخرج عن ذلك ذرة واحدة من أحكام العالم من أجل أن تنتصر كلمة لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله على خطة موسكو وواشنطن وباريس.
In the world's most populous Muslim nation, a call for Islamic law.
So when we look at the conflicts in India, Chechnya, Gaza, Indonesia, Iraq, Somalia, and countless other countries, this is what's at the root, the quest for Islam to become the dominant religion and Sharia the law of the land.
It seems so preposterous and so unbelievable, but yet thousands and millions of people follow this and take it seriously.
Is it time for the unbelievers to discard these incoherent, illogical beliefs, theories, and conjecture? Isn't it time for every Christian, Jew, pagan, and atheist to cast off the cloak of spiritual darkness which enshrouds them and emerge into the light of Islam?
Have you ever stopped to think about what would happen if the Islamists won and their version of Sharia law was put into place? All you need to do is look at countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Sudan, and Somalia, and places like the Gaza Strip, and you'll see that those places are human rights disasters.
Across the world, we see that Christians are having a terrible time of it.
Christians in Iraq are deliberately targeted. The past 6 months alone, 7 priests have been kidnapped and 2 of them murdered.
All kinds of countries, we see Christians being persecuted, being oppressed, their churches being burned down, Christians being murdered, sometimes in very large number.
They were in the church for prayer when the car bomb went off.
The Christian communities in most Muslim countries now clearly feel themselves to be under strain. It's noticeable, for example, that a town like Bethlehem, which was once predominantly Christian, now has very few Christians remaining.
Bethlehem was once a Christian city, but today Christians are only about 10 to 15% of the population here.
My father's been being shot at 3 separate times for one simple reason: carrying that cross and walking every day.
Where there are Christian minorities and where there are Jewish minorities in any one of the countries where there is an Islamic majority, they are persecuted, they are overtaxed, they have to hide their religion.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
I wish to say finally, as I've said many times before, that this is not a war with Islam. It angers me, as it angers the vast majority of Muslims, to hear bin Laden and his associates described as Islamic terrorists. They are terrorists, pure and simple. Islam is a peaceful and tolerant religion, and the acts of these people are wholly contrary to the teachings of the Quran.
I also want to speak tonight directly to Muslims throughout the world. We respect your faith. It's practiced freely by many millions of Americans. and by millions more in countries that America counts as friends. His teachings are good and peaceful, and those who commit evil in the name of Allah blaspheme the name of Allah. The terrorists
I want you to understand, I want the world to understand that our actions today were not aimed against Islam. The faith of hundreds of millions of good, peace-loving people all around the world, including the United States. No religion condones the murder of innocent men, women, and children. But our actions were aimed at fanatics and killers who wrap murder in the cloak of righteousness, and in so doing, profane the great religion in whose name they claim to act.
My name is Ken Bigley from Liverpool, the Bolton district. I'm here in Iraq, and I think this is possibly my last chance to speak to somebody who will listen for me. I need you to be compassionate, as you've always said you will, and help me. I don't want to die.
حتى نراك طريقة مرتاحة وسنبقى.
Sandila Kanwal, based on
everybody obeys.
To be fair, on their website, CARE has
account of prisoners
to begin to
numbers. There are now many millions of Muslims in Britain and Europe.
Do you know which
already escaped from Iraq's second city, Mosul, after the
ISIS leaders have started to
countries. These videos attract certain people, young people, who find violence exciting.
Last month, Munir Muhammad Abu Salha, a 22-year-old from Vero Beach, Florida, became the first American suicide bomber in Syria. ISIS were already in Syria.
August 30th, the Anatolia News Agency.
Okay, here's a little tip on how to find videos and you know what to do while I'm running the Caster All video.
And so I jumped up. Let the lights through 15. And reveling in Zechariah chapter 4.
This is Dabu 7 with an update to yell underneath of a massive supervolcano battle there at any moment. By tomorrow for sure. Now your victories?
Been photographed directing rocket launchers from a...
Come out, the feds swarm small...
And it was telling people, I can't times, date backwards. The date makes no sense. August the 5th of the... A guy named... The explosion caused by weeks ago several roads through Yellowstone.
Yellowstone National Park could be sitting on a time bomb. There is a supervolcano underneath the national treasure that's more than twice the size of the park itself. The U.S. Geological Survey says the volcano last erupted 630,000 years ago.
And visitors of Yellowstone National Park have been advised to keep off the roads. That's because the heat from a supervolcano beneath the Earth's surface is melting away the asphalt. Park officials officials have closed the 3-mile-long roadway known as Firehole Lake Drive and have asked visitors to park on the sides of the road. Park officials warned that stepping on the seemingly solid asphalt could create an illusion, and you could quickly find yourself stepping into hot water. Literally. Park officials say it's basically turning the gravel into oatmeal. This roadway is the main access to such geysers as Old Faithful, the Great Fountain, White Dome, and of course, Firehole Lake. Maintenance teams will now remove the melted asphalt from the roadway and apply sand and lime to absorb.
Earth here. It's Wednesday, May the 7th, 2014, and apparently the United States has been caught, busted, in striking a contingency deal with Brazil, Australia, and South Africa, and this report is out of the Epoch Times, and it came out just a few hours earlier today, and you know, this is raised for concern. This is out of a mainstream article, Epoch Times, and originally it came from a mainstream South African news website, Prague, and apparently the United States offered the African National Congress $10 billion a year for the next 10 years to build temporary housing for Americans in case of a Yellowstone eruption. And the potential eruption of a supervolcano at Yellowstone would be catastrophic, and that's an understatement. A full eruption would, result in literally half the country being wiped out, and temperatures everywhere would drop 20 degrees on average, and it would just be real bad. And the only, well, I don't want to say the only safe zones, but the safest zones would be Australia, Brazil, Argentina, South Africa, either places in the southern hemisphere or places near the equator, and I'm sure there's other safe zones. But the U.S. government was attempting to strike deals with these governments, and what's really interesting here is South Africa actually declined, and they declined because they claimed white Americans being moved there in an evacuation would pose a risk to black national culture identity.
The Earth is in crisis. A tiny black hole has punched through the planet and shaken up every volcano. Now the U.S. has its fair share of volcanoes, especially in the West. But in a crisis like this, all eyes will turn to one place, Yellowstone.
Yellowstone Park lies above a huge body of magma that has been accumulating in the Earth's crust at a depth of about 5 to 6 miles. And this vast area of magma is about 25 to 50 miles across, and it could be considered one of the most dangerous volcanoes on the Earth today.
Every time something wiggles or breathes or moves on Yellowstone, we're on it. We've never seen Yellowstone erupt. We don't know what its signals are. So we're watching very, very carefully in the hopes that we would be able to identify the signal of a big eruption.
We gotta get out of here.
Now, after weeks of waiting, warning signs of eruption have been detected at America's biggest supervolcano, Yellowstone.
Think of the worst disaster you've ever experienced or read about. Yellowstone going off would make those look like a walk in the park.
Millions of Americans across 8 states from the Central West are now fleeing, hoping to put some distance between themselves and the volcanic catastrophe that may be coming within the next few days.
The Department of the Interior changed the status of the pre-eruption evacuation from recommended to mandatory.
Come on in. Welcome to Safe Haven. Hello, sweetheart. Head on through. At a certain point, the clock is just going to run out. There will be no time left to build anything or come up with a new idea. The solutions we put in place are the solutions we're going to live with. Even if there are still problems and rough edges.
Communities like Safe Haven will be available only to those few people who can buy their way in. But what about the rest of us? What about the 99%? In this scenario, there's really only one thing the government can do: evacuate.
Many people will decide not to evacuate, or not to evacuate until it's almost too late. If you saved all your life to buy a house, and you know that you're going to lose that house, the decision to evacuate or to follow the order might not be as simple as we think.
Sir.
In a dream world, this is the world as it exists today.
The world is full of giants. They have always been here. We wait until they get sleepy. Wait until they get so big they can barely move. Then we walk out of the shadows. Quietly walk out of the dark and strike.
We've risked everything to warn you guys about what's coming. At this point, willful ignorance is your own problem. Willful ignorance is just that. It's willful. And if you choose to remain willfully ignorant, you do not get to choose your consequences. This is an appeal, I'm telling you now. Back during the Super Bowl, the Maserati logo, this young lady came out and she starts out and she says, they're a giant. They've always been here. That is a reference to Genesis 6.4. There were giants on the earth in those days, and after that, we slowly walk out of the darkness, shows them coming out from behind the veil, and then she says, and strike. As soon as the little girl says, and strike, run, there's the Maserati logo. It is a trident. Okay, now, that's where Satan telegraphed what he was going to do, and it started right there. It was so obvious that if you have spiritual eyes, it is ridiculously absurd how obvious it is. That's how it's ridiculous. It's not even hidden if you have spiritual eyes. There was nothing in that commercial that sold a car. That's all there is to it. It was not meant to sell cars. It was meant to send a cryptic message. So now what's the devil's plan? Well, now we had all of a sudden a missing Malaysian airliner. Well, let me tell you something. Planes don't just disappear. There's black boxes. There's also this transmitter from the Rolls-Royce engines and these things. It was done to show who's in charge. That's why that airliner is missing. Satan is trying to show he's the boss. The missing Malaysian airliner just happened to have on the tail a trident.
Command, the word of the day is trident. We have 2 alien craft on aggressive approach.
Icon 4 coming online, accelerating. It looks like it's going to impact somewhere in the South Indian Ocean.
I am here to destroy Satan, and this will happen.
Word of the day is trident.
Get behind me.
We have 2 alien craft on aggressive approach.
Icon 4 coming online. It looks like it's going to impact somewhere in the South Indian Ocean.
You're aboard now.
Yes, sir.
The word of the day is trident.
That wasn't enough. I discovered 370 again in another scene on top of another bus, the same number. We have 370 popping right at you. Check it out. So we have 2 clips of 370 popping right at you at the camera. Okay, also, the kicker, guys, right here, it says MIA. Missing in action. MIA 370, the same vehicle.
Command, the word of the day is trident.
It looks like it's going to impact somewhere in the South Indian Ocean.
There was a trident on the Malaysian airliner. I said, oh my gosh, something's going on. Dave said, oh my gosh, have you seen the Malaysian flag? Let me tell you something. Here we go. Get ready. The Malaysian flag is identical to the flag of the United States. It has 1 stripe more. It also has the blue rectangle, but instead of stars, it has a crescent moon. The crescent moon is the symbol for Islam. It also has a risen sun. A risen sun is the symbol for the Antichrist has risen. In the Quran, it states, the coming of the Mahdi will be preceded by the sun rising over the west. Barack Obama's logo for his campaign is the sun rising over the red and white stripes of the flag of the West, the United States.
Please welcome my partner in science and in life, Dr. Will Castor.
Hello, my name is Reza Afshar, this is Chris Bridgen, and we have finally put together our worldwide End Times Signs monthly compilation video for July 2014. And if you haven't seen our previous compilations, this video is all the unusual events that are happening all around the world just for July. This is July only. So it's absolutely a now video, and these events haven't happened years ago, they just happened weeks ago. And as you'll see, the weather isn't right, sinkholes are appearing around the world, the fish are dying by the millions, and something is seriously wrong.
I'm in Oklahoma, which is in the grip of drought, along with much of the Great Plains region that stretches across the heart of the United States. This field is one example of what's happened. You can see how the soil has just dried out. And what happens when the wind picks up, it just lifts the dust and then dumps it on fields nearby. Here you can see how what's meant to be a crop of wheat, well, the plants have almost been buried by the dust, making a harvest here almost impossible. Now, while we've been here, we've seen for ourselves the process at work of the wind picking up speed, racing over the parched fields and just lifting great clouds of dust into the air. You see them travelling for miles, and they can be really devastating because when they land on a field, they can actually kill the crops they've just touched down on. Now, one local resident in Boise City captured on her mobile phone the approach of a major dust storm early this year. And at the moment the storm struck, you could see how the colour of the air just changed.
And the dirt storm has hit.
And a truly unnerving experience, and one that has a devastating impact on agriculture, one of the main economic activities in this area. So what happens when wheat doesn't get any water at all? Well, the effect is dramatic. We asked the scientists at the John Innes Plant Research Centre in Norwich to record this time-lapse video for us. In the space of a week, the wheat plants lose their colour and then start to wilt. So much dust has blown off this field and accumulated here that this fence is almost buried. Well, climate scientists say they just can't be sure about the future patterns of rainfall, but they say they are pretty certain that temperatures will increase, and that means there'll be more evaporation, which makes it likely that droughts in the coming decades will be more intense.
Frantic call for help, the mother and son plummeting into a sinkhole, trapped in their car. Here's ABC's Alex Perez outside Chicago tonight.
It happened in seconds. Before Juanita Pineda and her 15-year-old son Benjamin could react, the road swallowing their car with them in it. You can hear the panic as she frantically dialed 911.
Hello? Yes, please help!
Juanita and Benjamin were out delivering newspapers just before 4 a.m. Tuesday, driving down a dark road in rural Illinois. When their Ford Taurus tumbled into the broad sinkhole, the road had given way after epic rains in June, double the average for the region. Mother and son were trapped. Benjamin was hurt. Then a bad situation got worse. A pickup truck literally drives over them.
Oh my God, Mom! Another car! Okay, what just happened? I don't know. Another car just...
50-50.
this number, this 1111, is it seems to work itself into a lot of things. I mean, predominantly the first thing is the universe itself, and obviously on the 11th of August 1999 at 11:11 a.m. there was a total solar eclipse that was observed through Europe. And if you move that further on the end date, December 21st, 2012, the end date of the main calendar, the winter solstice, which is when the calendar ends, is at 11:11 a.m.
So obviously,
so we've got this effect where the universe is ringing these numbers at us, you know, in accordance to consciousness and stuff.
Yeah.
And when you look at it in an astrological sense, with the precession of the equinoxes and the 26,000-year cycle of the Earth leveling through the 12 signs of the zodiac, we're said to be moving into the new age of Aquarius, and Aquarius is the 11th astrological sign. And so, going further into it, you look at the numbers of 2112, 2012, and you add all those numbers up, and you get an 11. And then you look into the sun, for instance, and the sunspot cycle for 11 years. And basically everything that you can just keep finding these 11s out of things. And you could argue that, are you looking for them? But basically, when it's that amount of things within the universe, it's not like I'm looking for them because they are there. You can't deny that. And so then you start moving into the numerology of it. And for instance, if you get 11 and you multiply it by 1111, you get the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, which is a pyramid. So then the same decreases, so if you've got 111 and you times it by 111, you get 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. You get a pyramid, whichever way you look at it, anything with a base of 1.
Interesting.
And so then, if you look at the 11 itself, and in binary, an 11 stands for 3. So obviously you've got a trinity out of it. Do you know what I mean? So if you were to convert to binary, it would mean it'd be 3. So essentially, then if you look at this idea of the trinity with it, you know 33rd degree Masons, when the 33 that goes around, obviously if you turn that into the trinity and you divide 33 by 3, you get 11.
That's interesting.
So you start seeing these 11s, as I'm saying. So then you move on to recent events and you get to September the 11th, 2001, right? And you realise that the building was stood like an 11. The two towers stood like an 11.
Indeed.
And then you've got 9/11, which is 9 plus 1 plus 1, which is 11. And then you realise that September the 11th was 111 days until the end of the year. And then you start thinking about the first plane that hit the World Trade Center, and it was Flight 11.
There you go, yeah.
So the total number of crew on Flight 11 was 11. And then you look into it further, and the New York State was the 11th state of the US Constitution. Right, and so then you start thinking about where September the 11th stands in as far as years are concerned. And September 11th, 2001 stands 11 years from 2012. Right. And there's an author called Jose Arguelles. He wrote that from 1992 to 2012 would be in a period of May and No Time, the time of no time, which was a transition of the ages kind of period in which basically world disasters and tension would be on the up and rise constantly. And this period of no time was 1992 to 2012. And so 9/11 in September the 11th, 2001 was 9 years from the start of no time, 11 years till the end of no time. So synchronistically it was placed bang on where it should have been. So then you start thinking about, was 9/11 an event that was either, was it as Jose Arguelles would put it, was it an inevitable event? Inevitable event. Was it designed by the universe for it to happen as it did? Look into it further, and the World Trade Center commenced building in 1966 and finished building it in 1977. So it took 11 years to create as well. So you can move on from that, forget all that for the time being, and then you can get to September the 11th in history. And on September 11th, 1990, at 9:09 p.m., that's 11 years prior to 9/11, George Bush made his very first speech entitled "Towards a New World Order" in the UN, at the UN. So this was 11 years prior. And then if you take that back 60 years, so you go back to September 11th, 1941, you'll realise that 60 years to 9/11, that was when the soil was broken for the Pentagon.
Pentagon, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so you've got this date, September the 11th, again running through this kind of, you know, the nasty war machine of America, if you want to call it that.
Exactly.
And so then, basically, there's something that happened much further back in time than that, and there's a book written in 1981, and it was called The Birth of Christ Recalculated. And it was written by a guy called Ernest L. Martin, and he claims to have calculated the exact date of Jesus Christ's birthday based on celestial charts for that era.
Yeah.
Basically, he'd worked out with the famous Star of Bethlehem, which was, you know, he worked out that essentially Jesus Christ was born on September 11th, 3 BC. And this book was released in 1981.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we've got another date there. I mean, when it comes into other significant events, for instance, when you know, think about America and NASA and stuff, the very first, like, shuttle that got to the moon was Apollo 11.
Yeah,
and then...
That you have caused us to be content in all that situation we're in. And we may seek your peace. And we may seek the peace that only comes from you. Give us wisdom, Father, and knowledge. Instruct us in the ways of righteousness so that we may do them all the days of our life. Keep us from evil. Forgive us for our sins. Cause me to speak so that these children can hear. That these teenagers can hear.
The Mahdi will be a messianic figure. He will be a descendant of Muhammad. He will be an unparalleled, unequaled leader. He will come out of a crisis of turmoil. He will take control of the world. He will establish a new world order. He will destroy all who resist him. He will invade many nations. He will make a 7-year peace treaty with the Jews. He will conquer Israel and massacre the Jews. He will establish Islamic world headquarters at Jerusalem. He will rule for 7 years, establish Islam as the only religion. He will come on a white horse with supernatural power. He will be loved by all people on earth. If that sounds familiar, that is a precise description of the biblical Antichrist. Absolutely. Step by step.
President of Clean TV. Our presenter, Waleed Shubat, is going to talk to you about the Bible, prophecy, things in a different way than you've ever heard them before. We've heard of people like Tim LaHaye and the Left Behind series, and you tend to wonder, how could 50 million copies of these books have been sold? I thought Nero was the gate.
A growing number of clergy responded by saying, we do not accept these changes, we are not going in this direction. And as a matter of fact, the Pope who is agreeing to this has become a manifest heretic. And we cannot agree that he is the Pope any longer.
In Philadelphia, a woman says after delivering her baby naturally at home, she received multiple visits from social workers, Child Protective Services at her home, requiring that she prove that the baby was healthy and under government-approved medical supervision. Discussed her interactions with doctors, police, and social workers. The birth itself was peaceful, she said, and for several days afterwards, her and her husband stayed home with their new baby daughter. The couple feels some aversion to unnecessarily medical interventions, and that's partly the reason why they gave birth at home, but reluctantly decided to pay a visit to a hospital for a checkup on day 6.
And he got a gun, and he started running after the cow. And he said the cow was running up a hill. He could not understand how it was on the porch and now was running away on the hill. And he ran to the pasture.
Oh, Linda, hold on one second. Hold on. We're up against another break. It goes so fast. Hold on. We'll be right back after this. Hey, in our last moment of truth, we talked about how the CDC is reporting that 10,000 children between the ages of 2 and 3 are now on Adderall or oral. Testosterone and estrogen. received
and medical January 1st, and they are in 12. At one end, the science would be, is this infrasound related to...
All right, I'm being told we're praying everything is okay.
I was really your people out there that are feeling.
Community as a whole. Don't be a tattle. I mean, when did our home...
The girl you wanted to marry, pero no. The one you didn't, pero sí.
People claim that the reason we're in this war in the first place is blowback, and a lot of it, you know, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, you admit you kill 50 innocent civilians for every one potential terrorist internationally, and I would assume, yeah, there's going to be some blowback. But there needs to be a foundation in which that blowback can create a fire. So, to me, it's as if the government...
The United States Bill of Rights, the 10 original amendments to the Constitution of the United States. Read for LibriVox.org by Andrea Fiore, December 27th, 2007. 1. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. 2. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. 3. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects, against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime, unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces, or in the militia, when in actual service in time of war or public danger, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. 6. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him.
Assalamu alaikum. Many other Americans have Muslims in their families or have lived in a Muslim majority country. I know because I am one of them. But my father came from a Kenyan family that includes generations of Muslims. As a boy, I spent several years in Indonesia and heard the call of the azan at the break of dawn. I have known Islam on 3 continents before coming to the region where it was first revealed. That experience guides my conviction. You're absolutely right that John McCain has not talked about my Muslim faith. As the Holy Quran tells us, the Holy Quran teaches that, the Holy Quran tells us, and the Holy Quran also says,
Who is this man who calls himself Barack Hussein Obama? What's his religion? And should I vote for him this November? I can't answer the last question for you, but after doing some thorough research, I can answer the first 2. His legal name in Indonesia is Barry Soetoro. As shown on this document, recorded at the school he attended, it would have been unlawful in Indonesia to record any but his full legal name on this document. So as far as we know, to this day, in Indonesia, Barry Soetoro remains his legal name. Barry, or Barack Hussein if you will, attended a Catholic school in Indonesia, which was required by law to instruct him in the religion of Islam.
4 tahun lalu, pengusaha batubara ini tak mau mengubah desain bangunan rumah tersebut. Kamar Barack Obama misalnya, tetap dibiarkan seperti semula. Obama pernah berpose di samping lemarinya.
This video will present irrefutable and scientific proof that will establish beyond any reasonable doubt that Michelle Obama is in fact a man who prefers to present himself and who prefers to dress up as a woman. This video will prove that the person commonly referred to as the First Lady of the United States may be the First Queen at best, but he most certainly is not a lady. Let's find out why. This video will examine the following. It will examine Michelle's male hands, male shoulders, male torso, male genitalia, and overall male proportions. It will also look at how a carefully designed wardrobe, a wide hairdo, a persistent facially distorting smile, and carefully selected press photos have all succeeded in suppressing the revelation of Michelle's undeniable male physical form. While this information is controversial and shocking to say the least, it is being shared because it is the truth. It is being presented so that people can stop living the lie that is being dished out by the U.S. government and the mainstream media.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the comedian who lately has been censoring her own typically outrageous commentary recently officiated a same-sex wedding.
When a photographer pitched her a question, the response was, typical Rivers.
And do you think that the country will see the United States will see the first gay president or the first woman president?
We already have it with Obama, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
You know Michelle is a trans.
I'm sorry, she's a what?
A transgender. We all know.
Oh my gosh.
And just when you think she said it all, Joan Rivers goes and shocks us all over again.
Okay, so here she was promoting her new book when some PETA supporters asked her why she still wears fur, including fur.
Dead Earth here. It's March 14th, 2014, and this viral video just came out a couple days ago, and the title of it is Irrefutable Proof That Michelle Obama is a Man. Now, when I first clicked on the link for this video, honestly, I was kind of just looking for a laugh. I didn't think, this would present any credible evidence. But I gotta say, after watching this, I gotta say I'm convinced. And before I get into any of the evidence surrounding this situation, I just want to say this. I am not one of these gay bashers. In fact, I'm a staunch supporter of gay rights.
There's no need to feel down. I said, young man, pick yourself off the ground. I said, young man, cause you're in a new town. There's no need to be unhappy, young man. There's a place you can go. I said, young man, when you're short on your dough, you can't stay there. And I'm sure you will find many ways to have a good time. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. They have everything for your friends to enjoy. You can hang out all the boys. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. you listen to me? I said, young man, what do you wanna be? I said, young man, you can make brilliant dreams, but you got to know this one thing. No man does it all by himself. I said, young man, put your pride on the shelf and just go down to the YMCA. I'm sure they can help you today. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. They have everything for your men to enjoy. You can hang out with all the boys. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. You can get yourself clean. You can have a good meal. You can do whatever you feel. Young man, I was once in your shoes. I said I was down and out with the blues. I felt young man. Dreaded I were alive. I felt the whole world was so tired.
I'm turned off by what it's called religion in our nation, and I'm turned off by a lot of what is called Christianity or the church. I find it very repulsive. I really do, and I'm not trying to be unkind. I find it repulsive and distorted, and I find it a very degraded reality upon which the original was built. And let me give you an example. The study of the Bible is not boring. It's boring if it's taught by religious people who don't understand it. Then and there's no pun intended, it's boring as hell if it's taught by people that don't understand it. So let me give you an example. The story of Noah and the flood is basically taught by most churches as if it was an allegory about this funky old man in a beard, and he built a cute little wooden ark, and these cute little animals come into the ark, and God floods the world for whatever reason they decide to come up with, and the animals come in two by two. It's a trite, cute little stupid story. That doesn't have real appeal to adults. I mean, it makes a great cartoon for kids, but it doesn't have real appeal for adults. Now, if you throw that in the garbage, that kind of story, and that's what I would do, because if somebody taught me the story of Noah, and I was taught the story of Noah in those terms for most of my life, and I feel like I was ripped off.
Give us that website one more time, because I think people definitely should check out what you're talking about.
Okay, it's www.trueexorcist.com. You'll find lots of articles there and other things, everything from culture and politics to cults, the occult, theology, you name it.
Now, since you've been on, we've been with you for the entire hour so far. Since you've been on, we've been getting a lot of messages.
And as a matter of fact, the Pope who is agreeing to this has become a manifest heretic. And we cannot agree that he is the Pope any longer. And thus was...
Today I also wish to mention this year's message for World Communications Day, which was released on the eve of the Feast of St. Francis de Sales, patron saint of journalists. The message concerns the new technologies, which have made the internet a resource of utmost importance, especially for the so-called digital generation. Undoubtedly, wise use of communications technology enables communities to be formed in ways that promote the search for the true, the good, and the beautiful, transcending geographical boundaries.
Romanism is now regarded by Protestants with far greater favor than in former years in those countries where Catholicism is not in the ascendancy, and the papists are taking a conciliatory course in order to gain influence. there is an increasing indifference concerning the doctrines that separate the Reformed churches from the papal hierarchy. The opinion is gaining ground that, after all, we do not differ so widely upon vital points as has been supposed, and that a little concession on our part will bring us into better understanding with Rome. The time was when Protestants placed a high value upon the liberty of conscience, which had been so dearly purchased. Countries as in Italy and Spain, for instance, where all the people are Catholics, and where the Catholic religion is an essential part of the law of the land, they are punished as other crimes. Every cardinal, archbishop, and bishop in the Catholic Church takes an oath of allegiance to the Pope, in which occur the following words: heretics, schismatics, and rebels to our said Lord the Pope, or his aforesaid successors, I will to my utmost persecute and oppose. Josiah Strong, Our Country, Chapter 5, paragraphs 2 to 4.
Daniel 7:23. Now the mark, which belongs to the papacy, is the professed holy day of mainstream Christianity. Sunday is our mark of authority. The Catholic Church is above the Bible, and this transference of the Sabbath observance is proof of that fact. Catholic Record, September 1st, 1923. Protestants accept Sunday rather than Saturday as a day for public worship after the Roman Catholic Church made the change. But the Protestant mind does not seem to realize that, in observing Sunday, they are accepting the authority of the spokesman for the Church, the Pope. Our Sunday Visitor, February the 5th, 1950. The Pope's title, Vicarius Filii Dei, Vicar or Representative of the Son of God, adds up to 666 in Roman, Greek, and Hebrew. Revelation 13:18 reads, Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. And therefore the mark of the beast 666 is a prophecy that the entire world will enforce a Sunday law by fines, economic sanctions, and then finally the death sentence. The mark of the beast is symbolic. It is an individual mark like the seal of God, which also is not literal but symbolic, signifying obedience to God's law. The forehead represents the mind and the hand actions. So the mark of the beast 666 on the forehead and hand represents obedience in thoughts and actions keeping Sunday. The law will start in the United States, and the rest of the nations will then be compelled to observe the Roman sun worship day that was founded in 321 AD. Revelation 13, 15, 16, and 17. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. The Lord specifically instructs which day we are to keep. Exodus 20:11. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. This was before the birth of Isaac, who became Israel, and whose descendants became the Jews. Exodus 28, remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. In the issue of the contest, all Christendom will be divided into 2 great classes, those who keep the commandment of God, what it's called.
Maybe you've heard the...
Still out here doing these songs, you're still on tour. I do, but I don't take it for granted. Why do you still do it? Why are you still out here? Well, it goes back to that destiny thing. I made a bargain with it, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my hand. What was your bargain? To get where I am now. Should I ask who you made the bargain with? with the chief commander. On this earth? And on this earth, and then in the world we can't see.
If your ultimate goal is to
be famous, then you're going to do a lot to get there, like sign your name in blood in a contract with the devil. Like you're going to end up on a one-way street and it's going nowhere. Like that's just the truth. I've seen so many people like forsake their moral code and their value system just for a little bit of fame, and it's not worth it at the end of the day. It's really not worth it.
Didn't do it in a tablet right away, did it in the phone. What was the, did you consider doing a tablet when you did the iPhone, or was it just a natural progression? The iPhone came out, it was a big hit?
I'll actually tell you kind of a secret.
Okay.
I actually started on a tablet first. And I had this idea of being able to get rid of the keyboard, type on a multi-touch glass display. And I asked our folks, could we come up with a multi-touch display that I could type on, I could rest my hands on, and actually get rid of the keyboard, type on a multi-touch glass display.
By a man of God named Mickey Robinson. You're going to be absolutely amazed when you hear this story, because he was in a plane crash that literally destroyed him. In fact, it killed him, and yet he's alive to tell the tale. Hold on to your seats right now and listen to this amazing, outstanding testimony of the goodness of God.
I'd never met anybody who ever told me about anything personally knowing God or anything supernatural other than historically what I knew from stories from the Bible. Never met one person who told me they had a real relationship with Jesus. Never knew about the need.
Is very real. Colton Burpo was just 3 years old when he got a sneak peek at what is to come. Take a look.
How old are you today? And what is your name? And where do you live?
Angels came and flew me up to heaven.
I said, so Colton, what did Jesus look like?
I knew that the first person I saw was Jesus. He was wearing white robes with a purple sash, and he just came down nicely and gracefully.
Jesus has markers.
Tamara LaRue was 15 years old. She was a troubled teenager. One day, she took a gun her mother had and put it against her chest, and she pulled the trigger. Her body was rushed to the hospital, but she said her soul went somewhere else.
That there was no way to live a completely happy life was that I never surrendered to the lordship of Jesus Christ.
Was this like regret in your mind as part of that fear?
Absolutely.
Trucks, and his job as a self-employed diesel mechanic helped this Christian family man live out his power truck dreams and provide for his wife and 4 children. He never gave a second thought to the dangers of working on engines that weighed thousands of pounds until November 16th, 2006.
I was working on a Peterbilt logging truck about an hour from our home. And the guy that I was working with that day, the driver of the truck, asked me if I would look and try and diagnose one more problem, one more leak before I left. So if you can picture one of these great big Peterbilt trucks, here's the front bumper. And I slipped underneath that great big chrome bumper feet first. And he had the front axle jacked up in the air and the passenger side wheel removed. The axle is going right across my chest at this point, maybe an inch or two above my chest.
Then just as Bruce slipped under the truck, the 20-ton capacity jack holding up the truck shot out from its position.
And this 10,000, 12,000 pounds of weight that is on these 2 front wheels on this axle came down across my midsection, basically like a blunt guillotine.
Police claim their research shows the Illuminati is a satanic cult.
On the news now, prosecutors are painting a sadistic picture of an alleged teen killer
with the promise that killing her would allow the 16-year-old to, quote, sell his soul to the devil. An upside-down crucifix that they say had been carved on the girl's stomach.
The mother, identified as 32-year-old Ebony Wilkerson from Cross, South Carolina, she is now undergoing mental health exams.
The citizens rush to get home. If you're not purging, we advise you to get off the streets. It'll soon be a war up there.
This is the commencement of the annual purge. At the siren, all crime, including murder, will be legal. Your government thanks you for your participation.
Northern California, we've got a bit of an unusual situation. Now, this first portion of the radar cycle, fairly bland and typical, but then you see these bands of very distinct cloud cover moving into the region. That is not rain, that is not snow. Believe it or not, military aircraft flying through the region is dropping chaff.
Grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend.
Freemasonry started when the Rosicrucians merged with the stonemason guilds of Europe. From the 1640s onwards, As the construction of grand cathedrals declined, Masons
Embedded in the design are mysterious images and arcane symbols.
There's a very distinctive emblem, an uncompleted pyramid with the all-seeing eye of Providence at the top.
But why is it there, and what does it mean?
America's secret destiny is concealed in those symbols. It's a civilization without a belief in God.
Conspiracy theorists believe that these elaborate images are part of a political and religious plot dating all the way back to the birth of the United States of America. A plot that involves not only the founding fathers, but also one of the country's most revered presidents, Franklin D. Roosevelt. And at the heart of that conspiracy are the Freemasons.
Conspiracy is
some deep-seated paranoia.
She has many enemies.
What's going on behind the closed doors?
It's a conspiracy.
Conspiracy theories.
What are the secrets contained in the dollar bill? A close look at the dollar bill reveals a complex design. It is positively crammed with imagery that clearly has symbolic significance. A pyramid, an all-seeing eye. An eagle, or is it a phoenix? What are they supposed to mean, and how did they get there? Conspiracy theories abound, fueled by radio phone-ins, contentious publications, and even Hollywood blockbuster films. But where does the truth lie? The truth begins here, with the Great Seal, the official badge or coat of arms of America. This symbol is known globally as the centerpiece of the dollar bill. And by understanding the seal, we can start to decode the secrets hidden in the banknote's design.
Not working openly for their goals. They keep them secret. They put their symbols inside the seal so that only those who knew the secret could understand them.
The committees employed to develop the design.
Well, if you look carefully at the committees who helped design it, you find that there were no Freemasons that actually added to the design of the Great Seal of the United States.
If it was the artistic advisors that chose the images, it's possible that their inspiration had nothing to do with the Freemasons.
One of America's most important founders was a man named Charles Thompson, who was said to have been closer to the events and people of the American Revolution than any other man of that era. Thompson was the congressional secretary from 1774 to 1789, all the way through the Revolution and the establishment of the federal government. He was also the man who made the final decisions for the design of the Great Seal of the United States, which can now be found on the back of America's dollar bill. As the new American Republic was being founded, Thompson made a detailed history of the events that took place during the Revolution and of the men who were being celebrated as heroes across the country. Though he was compelled repeatedly to publish this history, Thompson declined. "No," he said, "I ought not, for I should contradict all the histories of the great events of the Revolution. Let the world admire the supposed wisdom and valor of our great men." He said, "I shall not undeceive future generations." As a result, Thompson eventually destroyed his manuscript, and what may have been the truest account of the American Revolution was lost for all time. It might be said that any serious investigation into America's history should begin with Thompson's story and his decision not to undeceive future generations. What did Thompson mean? What was he hiding? And since we are the future generation, what have we been deceived about? As a Christian nation, it is important to divide her history. Most agree that the Pilgrims who landed at Plymouth in 1620 were undoubtedly Christians who built their cities and schools based on the teachings of the Bible. Yet 150 years would pass before the United States was founded as a result of the American Revolution. Because of the Christian influence early on, the revolutionary philosophies have been embraced in what might be called patriotic Christianity. Patriotic Christianity, which is the idea of America being founded as a Christian nation. And so we have many Christians who are going forward, and they're being compelled because of this information about the founding fathers. They're told, well, the founders of the American Revolution, these were Christian men, and that what they were trying to do was to set up a Christian nation. And therefore, we should honor their example and their philosophy by fighting for Christianity in America and to do Paine. When Paine left America, he joined up with the revolutionaries in France, and with the help of friends like Freemason, the Marquis de Lafayette, he entered the political arena, assisting in forging the new French Constitution.
For thousands of years, the Mayan calendar has prophesied doomsday on December 21st, 2012. With the end date coming soon, a must-read thriller.
Eradication of Saddam's forces by a coalition far superior in technological, political, and economic.
I'm turned off by what?
By the survivor and voice producer Mark Burnett and his wife Roma Downey. It is, as the name of anyone else, think the devil in the Bible Sunday on History Channel looks exactly like that president. Now Beck has his followers, which is why his tweet took off.
Let me play devil's advocate, and may mean that literally, and argue for the president here for a second. Some of the Book of Revelation crazies out there actually believe that Barack Obama is the Antichrist.